Whether you like it or not, you might live in the Matrix. Besides the fact that science is debating whether we live in a big old hologram, there are just too many things around us that aren't what they seem. So open your mind and learn the truth as TheHub reveals everyday things that prove your life is a lie. And stay in the know by clicking on the red pill, or rather, the red subscribe button. Homes. Some buildings just can't blend into their surroundings. Whether they have crooked walls or eye-popping colors, these structures can usually find a way around city ordinances and codes, allowing them to be designed and decorated to the owner's satisfaction. And then other buildings just blend right in, with minor blink-and-you'll-miss-it differences that nearly go unnoticed. Take 58 Jereleman Street in Brooklyn, New York. Like any other fashionable brownstone in this residential neighborhood, it's a fine and unassuming building, save for one major secret. Passing it on first glance, you may not notice that all the windows are painted jet black. Are the owners sensitive to light? Do they belong to a cult? Well, no, because there's nobody living inside. But who owns such prime New York real estate? The New York City Transit Authority. The house at 58 Jereleman Street is located directly above the Bowling Green and Borough Hall stations. Within this residence is a passageway for authorized personnel only, as well as a ventilator. Unassuming buildings like these are the perfect place to house public service equipment without making them eyesores for people who live nearby. So next time you see an empty home next to a power plant, it might just be storage for more of that same power plant. Car commercials. The gleaming light of sun shines off the hood of a new car as it careens around mountain roads, speeds through a desert, and roves around a forest. The driver might smile as they enjoy their smooth ride. Maybe a celebrity spokesperson talks about how this car will change your life, or change the course of history. This will be on a commercial during the Super Bowl. Families will watch, people will weep, sales will tick up slightly. The only thing is, that car you saw in that commercial doesn't exist. Sure, some manufacturers in some far-off land has an assembly line putting it together, but usually the car itself isn't around for filming. Instead, commercial production companies use the Blackbird. This battery-powered rig comes with a mounted camera, adjustable wheels that can match the size and distance of any modern vehicle on sale, and suspension that helps it to realistically react to any driving environment. Once filming is done, a computer-generated car is superimposed over the Blackbird. This way, money is saved for any time spent borrowing the car for the initial shoot and reshoots. Commercials are made, families watch, people weep, and cars are bought. Facades. Some people take home decor and design seriously. They won't settle for anything less than the real thing. No white picket fences made of plastic for them, and no Brady Bunch style AstroTurf for their front lawn either. But these people may be surprised to find that faux facades have come a long way in the past few years. Thanks to advances in technology, accurate molds of slates can create a rocky exterior wall to the front of a house that looks as if it was painstakingly cemented around the front door, rock by rock. It could be just as easily applied in one sheet by a homeowner. Wrought iron substitutes are made of composite metals, but they too are painted to match the dark reflective properties of the real thing. If placed on the outside of a second-story window as a frame, it looks just like actual metal, but is much lighter to handle. Public works projects often use substitutes too. Those brick roads you're stepping on could just be red-painted concrete with stencils inlaid to make different bricks stand out, or worse, they could just have been textured sheets laid directly over the roads themselves. Pineapples. While it's a delicious addition to any smoothie or fruit salad, pineapples are actually a pretty commonly mistaken fruit. Grown in the ground and not in trees, pineapples can take 3 full years to ripen, which explains why they're usually more expensive than other fruits you'll encounter in the produce aisle. They also are often considered sweeter tasting when salt is added. Named by European explorers who noted their similar shape to pine cones, these fruits are actually berries. When pineapples grow and mature, they're really a bunch of different berries that coalesce into a spiky, gridded plant that you can pick up from a store. Speaking of berries, other surprising fruits belong to the berry family are watermelons, pumpkins, avocados, and bananas. And yet, strawberries are not actually berries. Yes, pineapples are unique fruit, and although they were first discovered in South America, the sweetest tasting are often thought to be found in Hawaii and Costa Rica. That said, most pineapples in the world are produced out of Southeast Asia. No matter the location and no matter the exterior color, pineapples tend to taste sweet wherever you find them. Green grass. Are you green with envy over your neighbor's lawn? Often the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but in California, it's greener on the other side of the state line. Only thing worse than all these green cliches is the drought that's impacted the southwestern United States these past several years. It's dried up riverbeds, cracked the landscape, and browned the mountains. With some homeowners desperate for a change from the ever-dying monotony and unable to add any more water than necessary to their properties, they're turning to unique solutions. That's where companies like Extreme Green Grass and Lawn Lift come in. With natural-based green paints and pigments found in women's cosmetics, they developed an environmentally friendly way to turn grass green, and it lasts a good 3 to 6 months. It's a much cheaper alternative to replacing grass with cacti and other desert plants, which could cost up to $20 per square foot. Instead, the paint is often an affordable 35 cents per square foot, coming out to an average total of $175. Painting the grass green also helps cool down the surrounding area, and scientists point out its efficiency in conserving water. Pruned fingers. When you swim or take a bath, your fingers usually prune up. But why? You might think it's because the water causes your skin to swell, but scientists noted that this trait doesn't occur in fingers with nerve damage. Instead, researchers have discovered that this is a feature that the human body has developed through years and years of evolution. With grooved fingertips, we're able to better grip objects underwater. Even though the pruning makes your wet hands look temporarily older, it's an incredibly useful survival mechanism. Controlled by nervous systems, the pruning of our fingertips is as internal of a process as blood flow and heart rates. This process helped our ancestors grasp food from streams and rivers, and toe pruning aided in running barefoot along rain-soaked surfaces. Proven by having human test subjects grab wet and dry marbles, pruned hands picked up a series of wet marbles much faster than dry hands. So if you're caught wet-handed, you have a much better chance of survival. NASA Vehicle Assembly Building. Much of the scientific community has warned that climate change is one of the greatest problems of our time. Thankfully, many climate-controlled buildings can keep us safe from the elements, as long as they're not large enough to have a climate of their own. NASA's Mammoth Vehicle Assembly Building makes its own rules for the type of attributes a building can have. This massive open warehouse is so large, employees have noted that it has its own weather patterns. At 129,428,000 square feet, this factory was among the biggest structures around, with enough internal volume to contain almost 4 Empire State Buildings. With the largest stores in the world, they're big enough to fit the Statue of Liberty inside. This huge structure was built to fit the towering Apollo rockets of the 1960s, and with its height and width combined with the Florida humidity, clouds are known to gather in the ceiling. Any moisture and precipitation could prove dangerous to expensive devices at ground level, so the latest renovation of the building included air conditioning equipment weighing in at 10,000 tons. 1 hour of AC pumping through this room can replace all the air inside of it, allowing for clear blue skies. Ceiling. The Apollo 11 computer. Humankind's greatest accomplishment in the 20th century might have been our trip to the moon. The event, which we now take for granted, caught the attention of the entire planet as we looked skyward beyond what we once thought was possible. And just think, the flight was completed using drives with less processing power than a Super Nintendo. Advanced for its time, each of the 8 registers on the Apollo 11's computer contained a maximum of 16 bits of information. The Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis home video gaming system of the early 1990s could play up to 32-bit. Imagine millions of kids with the same computing power of the craft that took men to the moon, and it was hooked up to their TVs for Super Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog marathons. Even the IBM PC, a home computer released around 12 years after the moon landing, has about 8 times more memory than the first man-made object to land on the lunar surface. While the Apollo 11 computer could multitask like modern computers, albeit at a much more limited rate, it encountered its own share of difficulties. Equipped with only switches and blinking lights, there was only one red warning light to tell the crew of major life-threatening emergencies. This was triggered once the crew accidentally left 2 competing radars running at the same time, and they had to toggle through all of their systems to find the source. It's a shame they couldn't just press the reset button. Pirates' eye patches. Life was much tougher in centuries past, but pirates likely had it the roughest. Pillaging villages and seizing ships, their lives were never short of battles. The prevalence of swords, knives, cannons, and pistols meant that peg legs, hooks for hands, and of course, eye patches were never on short order. But did you know that not every pirate with an eye patch was missing an eye? Sure, some might have been faking it so they could have street cred, but eye patches were actually helpful tools for those with 2 eyes of their own. It takes the human eye a good 25 minutes to adjust from daytime to darkness. As the inner hull of ships were often dark and dank places, a quick flip of the patch would allow buccaneers to easily see the goings-on below deck. Although there's no historical anecdotes to confirm for sure, we can assume that no tough-acting pirate would want to reveal an unscarred face to their fellow Seabees. Wear an eye patch yourself the next time you're swabbing the poop deck, and no ruffian will try a tricky surprise attack on you while you're unaware. Tic Tacs. Tic Tacs are known and loved as the tiny and portable, sometimes minty and sometimes sweet candy. You might struggle getting one tack out of the small plastic container without spilling out the rest. But a helpful and fun fact to consider is that the indentation on the side of the lid is shaped to fit a single Tic Tac inside of it, like a mini spoon offering a single serving for your consumption. Although these candies are tiny, beware the wording on the box. It says it's sugar-free, but in actuality, Tic Tacs are 98% sugar. They're able to get away with this through a clever loophole in the Food and Drug Administration's rules. In order to be sugar-free, foods must have less than 0.5 grams of sugar. Since the total percentage of sugar in a given serving isn't taken into account and an average Tic Tac only weighs about 0.49 grams, the makers are able to sneakily call themselves a sugar-free snack. Now you know these 10 everyday things that prove your life is a lie. Spread the word and continue to learn more truths with TheHub. See you next time!